Hello Internet, hope you're doing well. Welcome to my channel AMinorError. In this video we're going to answer a question that I've been curious for a long time, which is basically head-to-head what sounds better in the context of an entire mix, a basically $120, $130 Neural DSP plugin versus a $2,500 Mesa Boogie head, cab, all mic'd up, and see which one sounds the best. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into it, neither Neural DSP or Mesa Boogie paid for this video or sent me the equipment. I've purchased everything with my own money, and therefore all of my opinions are obviously going to be my own. I found this test to be very interesting with how the different results went, and I'm very curious to hear what everyone's thoughts are as far as which mix version they prefer. I have my own, which I'll be expressing as we go, but yeah, I'd love to hear what everyone thinks as well out there in internet land. And obviously with YouTube's compression as well, I'm interested to kind of hear more results too. You know, I wonder if certain tones translate better in a down-sampled environment than compared to what I'm necessarily hearing here at my home studio too. So, you know, all of that will be fascinating and interesting, I think. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the weeds and really take a look at the test. Something I've really been looking forward to. I think it's really interesting how this all turned out. So just kind of explaining a little bit of my thought process. This is an old project file from a review I made on a Jericho baritone guitar. And I was about to sell my Mark V head and my cab and all that stuff in the two notes, and then thought like, yo, I should shoot that out against the Mesa plugin that I just got from Neural. So that's sort of the thought process here. So these were all my DI tracks, and then I just took my previous playthrough footage for the cuts between, so we could see it all, you know, kind of put together. So I used Gojira when I was putting that together. So what I did was I kept some of the special effects that I had used from the Gojira plugin and just bypassed everything that I wasn't using. And I did that for when I reamped as well. So there's a whole thing reamping wise, which we'll get into in a second. So what I'm going to do is, well, let's take a look actually. So then what we're doing here is I used the Neural DSP's stomp boxes to go into the head. And then when I reamped, I kept that on so that it was all like the same basically. The only thing that changed when I used the head was turned off and the cab section was turned off. And then that was sent out, reamped, and then I took everything and bounced everything down that was, you know, like a left and right double track take into a stereo take like I normally would to keep the track count vaguely reasonable, although you can tell we ended up with quite the sizable project. So the way that works is I've got my Neural ones here, and then this is the head and cab. This is actually the two notes version, using the head into their cab sim, which we're not going to worry about for this video. And then I've got the version with the head going into the Neural DSP cab, which that to me was the most interesting one, which we'll get into in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave all my processing on and just sort of jump around soloing out the different things so we can kind of hear those and focus on those to start. So this is going to be the same section. I'll try to A-B a quick percent. So neural. So right off the bat, they're not even ballpark. That's not even the same at all, which is crazy. And then now let's get the last one involved. Can I see all of them? Yeah, I can. Okay, so then I'm gonna go the neural to the head and back and forth again. So this is using the neural cab, just the head changed, and the difference is still obviously they're going to be more similar, but the difference is still pretty big. So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, that's just so different. It's not even close. It's crazy how much the head into the cab really changes it, which, I don't know if you watch much of Glenn Fricker and Spectre Sound Studio, like his thing is like, oh, the cab's the only thing that really matters. No. No, the head matters. I think it all matters, I would say. Honestly, it'll all change the sound pretty wildly. So for the test, to try to get it as apples to apples as I possibly could, I used the 2x12 cab from the Neural plugin. And I tried to match the mics as well. So I have a Sennheiser E906. I went with the 409. Felt like that's a pretty similar microphone, and then a Royer 121, I have an R10. I know, they're not exactly the same. I'm sure there's somebody in the comments just freaking out. And then I tried to get the mic placement as close to the same as I could with the bright and dark mics. And I experimented a bit. I did a couple different passes messing with the mics. Obviously, you change the mics on the speaker. It does change it. So what I'll do now is let's just listen to them in solo, just on their own. And I'm going to turn off my processing as well so we can hear just what the actual plugins themselves sounded like. The head versus the cab, the neural versus the cab versus the head going into the neural plugin. So they're all crazy different. It's like not even close to the same, and it's the exact same cab. The one that interests me the most is the head with the neural cab versus the just the straight neural one. Obviously, I get it. The cab, it's not the exact same cab. That one is a horizontal. Mine was a vertical, and my mics weren't exactly the same. And obviously, that is a little bit a test of my own engineering skills as well. So yeah, okay, fine. But the interesting part to me is just how different the actual head is. And what I find fascinating by this is all of these unprocessed, I without a doubt prefer the actual cab. In my own preference, if you just hear them on their own, I think the cab is best, but not in the actual mix after it's been processed. So that's crazy. So I'd love to hear down below, what you guys think, Like, I think of all of them, the cab is my favorite, then the neural, and then the head into the neural is my least favorite, unprocessed, and then they're basically the opposite processed. I think the head into the neural is best processed, then the neural, and then I think the cab actually sounds the worst once it's been processed. So let's talk a little bit about my processing. So firstly, this tone is not mix ready. Yeah, there's like all these frequencies flying around. That does not sound good in the context of a full mix. So first thing, as always, you want to do is some sort of a high and low pass filter to tame the low end and tame that high fizziness. That's already a big improvement. Next step is to cut out those couple weird resonant frequencies, and those can be the hard ones to find, I think. And I have two different cuts going on, one at 3.2 and one at 6.1. Now, it's important to remember that the fizzy, the resonant things that we need to cut really are based on wherever these mics are placed. So if I grab the position and start to mess with these, then the cut points would change as well. So usually when I'm doing this, what I do is I find like a tone that I think is cool here, and then I'll make a couple different EQs. I just save it and then A/B them, and whichever one sounds best in the mix is what I end up going with. So first low cut, huge improvement. Like taking those away is like, it's like clouds going away. It's like you can actually hear the tone finally for what it is. Now, the problem is it's obviously too dark for the mix now though too. Like this doesn't fit well in the mix. So then I use just one last EQ to brighten it up a little bit, an upper mids thing all the way up at 4K, and then a little teeny bit of a high shelf. This is one of those EQs, again, this is like why these production videos, especially like, just Glenn Fricker annoys the hell out of me. Like, this is the sort of EQ, if it's not in the mix and I turn that on and off, I bet you can't even hear it. Like, it's only in the mix that all of a sudden you hear the guitar jumps up into the forefront where we want it to be in this part of the track, right? It's like, that's where the presence comes from. It's so subtle, but makes an enormous difference in the context of a mix. Which is, again, why he annoys me, because subtlety is, like, not his thing, as he fake scream shouts at the camera. It's just unbelievably irritating. And then last thing is I use a dynamic EQ to kind of tame the low end. I think I made a little bit of a mistake here. This is a little too aggressive, but... The basic idea with this is that you only want it to turn on when I'm palm muting, because we get this buildup of frequencies that isn't there normally, or this buildup of low end. So yeah, I think this was set maybe a teeny bit too high, but that's okay. Sometimes mistakes happen. So basically, rinse and repeat that process. All of the processing is the same for each one. Yeah, like, the tone's completely unusable without that main EQ on. It's just a complete disaster. So then that leaves the last one, which is the head. So let's hear the head without the processing and then with. So in the context of the full mix, I think I really like the head the most into it, actually, which is so funny because I liked it the least unprocessed. So why is it so different going the head into it? So my best guess is that there's something different about either the accuracy of the model of the Mesa 5-band EQ, or the Mesa 5-band EQ has changed since I was using a Mark V 25 in the 2C plus mode and not an actual 2C plus, because I don't know, I don't have, what are they, $5 grand, $8 grand, if you can even find one, right? I don't have that money. This isn't enough money for a crappy used car. So that's my best guess, because there's obviously a much bigger scoop of the mids, and I put it at the exact same point, at least visually. So that's the one thing I wish I'd fooled around with, I guess, maybe a little bit more as I was going through it, just maybe not matched the settings exact. And I've seen, like, what's his name, JHS, Josh, talk about that, if you go setting for setting, yeah, it's not going to sound the same. You have to, like, kind of tweak it a little bit more. So that is the thing that I wish I had done. I wish I had not set maybe them to exact, but then again, it's like, we're trying to see if we set them to the same, how it's going to sound. So, kind of the point of the test, actually, I guess, as well. So pretty fascinating, I think, and definitely would love to hear what everybody else thinks out there. I think I like all three, actually, in their own different way. And I think it's pretty reckless how good the Neural one sounds, as always, especially for the price, right? It's like $130, something like that, versus the Mesa rig. I mean, the head's like $1,500. The cab is $700-800 used, plus the mics. I can't remember how much my ribbon mic was. At least $300, I think, and then plus the other mic, which is an extra $150, and then you got the interface, which is another $175. It's like that's a ton of money. Just the one. The Neural stuff is crazy. So that is what the rhythm guitar sounded like, which I think is the most interesting, or the one that most people want to hear. I think the other one that's cool to look at real quick is this sort of what I'm calling gritty, which is this kind of like chimey guitar thing, because they all, since I set all of the EQs the same, that trend continues where the Neural one has more mids than the other. So here's what that sounded like on its own. So since I did this originally with demoing out Gojira, I left all the Gojira effects on, but then bypassed the cab. And then, I'm using the head in the cab section here, obviously for the Neural one, doing my EQ processing. So here's with this off. And in the context of the whole mix. And then another instance of Gojira, because I was using the time-based effects, so in order to get everything in the correct chain. And I think what I'll do is I'll turn off the EQ on all of them so we can hear that, and then we'll just jump around like that. Make sure I'm in the two notes one is in my way right now. All right, and off. It's pretty crazy how different the head is versus, just go back and forth between the Neural and the head. And also for the reamping, I ran that's why there isn't another instance of Gojira here, because when I reamped it, I ran Gojira running into it, so it's already printed on there. Those are not even close. And I'll go through all three again. pop those EQs back on, that like lo-fi kind of EQ sound. And then in the context of the whole mix, let's actually do it this way. So thank you for watching this video and this shootout between Neural and Mesa. I think the results were rather interesting, and I definitely would love to know your opinions down below in the comments as far as which one that you preferred. I am still surprised how I struggled to get a tone that was a little bit closer. Maybe if I had spent a little more time, I'm guessing, with that middle fader. I think the fader scoop is on a different profile plugin versus the amp head that I had, but I still found the results to be interesting, and in the end I think that they all sounded pretty good as far as on their own in a mix, and almost just came down to personal preference which one you like the most. So yeah, let me know down below. You know, and again, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe. I appreciate it a ton. You know, the support goes a long way, and I guess have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.